All right, y'all, we are back with another video. I definitely had to bring y'all this. Now, President Trump wasn't ready for this, man. Karoline Leavitt just absolutely went off on Jen Psaki. She's back running her mouth again. Not only that she's running her mouth, she's getting mad and trying to call out Republicans for praying for the Catholic children who was taken out by the trans shooter. I mean, so now not only that, even JD Vance came out and pretty much called out Jen Psaki. So this is what these Democrats do. They try to blame everything that happened on President Trump. And now not only that, you going after Republicans that's pretty much praying for the children who was, shot, and I think it was 2 that lost their life. And you got JD Vance, and like I said, even a lot of Republicans, praying and stuff like for them, for their families. And you got Jen Psaki pretty much saying, y'all don't need to be praying for them. Like, what is wrong with these Democrats? They say all type of stupid stuff. But I definitely had to bring y'all this because, like I said, Karoline Leavitt didn't hold back on Jen Psaki after she made those comments. And like I said, I'm going to show y'all exactly what JD Vance said in response to what Jen Psaki said. So make sure y'all please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Shout out to everybody showing so much support. Shout out to the ones who always watch the entire video. I appreciate all of you that do that, and the ones that let me know in the comment section that you did stay to the end. I really, really appreciate it. And the ones that come straight in and hit that like button. Please hit that like button if you haven't. It really helps get the video out there. And last thing I want to say, I've been getting a lot of messages of y'all saying, hey, Adogg, how do I donate to you? I have a Cash App and I have a PayPal in the description under all of my videos. If you would like to say anything, I really, really appreciate it, because I've been getting a lot of messages of a lot of you that have been asking me, how do y'all send money and stuff like that. So just go to the description. And that's where you can send me something if you want to. I really, really appreciate it. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive straight into this, y'all. So, by Colin Rugg right here, you see he said, just in, a sobbing Jen Psaki rails against Republicans for their prayers for the Catholic children who were taken out in Minneapolis by a trans shooter. So let's check out what this clown Jen Psaki just said.
And all they should be hoping to do is have someone to sit with at lunch or someone to play with on the playground. And they should be waiting to hear an update when they get home. And that is not what these parents at the school experience today. Sorry, this is a tough one. Having your child killed while they are sitting in a pew for a morning prayer service is not what any parent should have to worry about. And I have felt a mixture of anger and a lot of anger and emotional exhaustion about this today, as I'm sure many of you have, because we have been here so many times. And yet again, like clockwork, half of the politicians in our country have little more to offer than thoughts and prayers. That is all they are offering. Join all of us in praying for the victims, was Vice President J.D. Vance's response today. That's what he said. That's it. Please join me in praying for everyone involved, Trump wrote. We have seen this play out over and over again. There is a
but what is wrong with what President Trump and JD Vance said about my prayers go out to them, my prayers go out to them? What's wrong with saying that? Why everything that they always got to bring up what President Trump or JD Vance or what other people done said? What's wrong with saying that? And of course, we went over the video yesterday. It definitely was a sad situation and stuff. You even had, Democrats that's pretty much taken up for what the trans shooter did. And not only that, they turned everything on President Trump. Oh, it's President Trump's fault, but yet they ain't talking about that the shooter pretty much had on his magazine that he wanted to take out President Trump. So now you got, Jen Psaki sitting up here talking about pretty much trying to say what JD Vance and President Trump doing is wrong, but that's all they got is prayers.
Shooting, then come the thoughts and prayers, and then comes the attempt to shift the focus. This is what always happens. You're going to start seeing narratives. You're already seeing them. They're already out there about how the shooter was trans. You're going to see narratives about how the shooter appeared to be.
That's not a narrative. We got the documents of the guy changing his name. I think from Robert to Robin. I mean, I tell you the truth.
Anti-Trump and anti-Semitic, and clearly was in the midst of a mental health crisis. There's no question about that. But here's the thing. There are trans people all over the world. There are anti-Semitic people, unfortunately, all over the world. And people filled with plenty of political hate all over the world. And mental health issues are not unique to the United States. And yes, we should do more to address them. But it's also an issue all over the world. But this is the only country where shootings like this one happen this often. The United States not only has the highest rate of gun violence of any country in the world, it's become a leading cause of death for young people and teenagers in this country. That should make everybody angry. Weaponizing the shooter's identity is meant to distract from what matters. That is what they are doing, trying to distract from what matters.
Why she make everything political? Every time something happened, what do Democrats do? They make it political. Oh, Donald Trump them just trying to do this, and then they're going to brush off. Oh, J.D. Vance just trying. They make everything political. This is just sad.
What matters. Today's shooter bought the rifle, handgun, and shotgun they used to do what they did today legally. We live in a country with more guns than people, where there are not universal background checks, there are not bans on assault weapons, and it is far too easy to buy a gun. It's the guns, everyone. It's not really a secret. There are a lot of things to feel outraged about right now, and I try.
Oh, just shut up. So let's get to this right here by Colin Rudd. He said, just in Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey say that this is time for America to stand up for the trans community after a trans shooter took out Catholic children in the city. Like, this guy right here should be fired. It's like he's worried about, you know, the American people standing up for the trans community other than the kids that, you know, that was shot at and the two that lost their life. And like I said, the one that was in the hospital. Man.
When you talk about compassion, I don't want to tiptoe around the edge of this, but, you know, the shooter's name was in question, the gender of the shooter. No one's really sure what's going on there. 5 years ago it was Robert, then a name change to Robin. Okay. This is being seized in all corners, as you can imagine, in all sorts of ways. And you know that, Mayor. And perhaps that's why when you spoke about this so profoundly and powerfully as you are even here now, but when you spoke about this today publicly, you voiced concern for the transgender community, for the community overall. And obviously you chose to do that in that moment because you thought it was important. And I wanted to give you a chance to say why you felt it was important to do that in that moment.
Obviously, I've heard about the rhetoric and the narrative that is being pushed out, but here's the thing. Anybody that is going to use this as an opportunity to villainize our trans community or any community has lost touch with a common humanity.
These Democrats are something else, man.
Operating not out of hate for any group, but out of a love for our children. That's where the focus needs to be right now. A love for our kids. Seeing these kids, not just as somebody else's kids, this horrific thing happened, but what if it was our own? How would we feel then? So, look, we need to be standing up for every community out there. A Catholic community, too, by the way. I mean, any community that suffers this kind of blow, our Minneapolis community, you got to stand up for them. But, you know, I feel oftentimes in these instances there's this desire to villainize a group. You want to call this an act of cowardice? Do it, because it is. But regardless of what group or background, gender, you know, the bottom line is that kids got killed. Let's love each other more. Let's love each other more, because the antidote to hate is not more hate. Hurt people, and the antidote to hate is a whole lot more love. That's where we all need to be going right now.
Well, Mayor Frey, I'm grateful to you for taking the time and sharing.
So check out what I think Colin Rudd was saying under this. Now, check this out. Colin Rudd said he's more concerned about defending the trans community than the community that was actually attacked. These people are completely delusional. And that's exactly, you know, what I was just saying a few minutes ago. He said, is Minneapolis a safe haven for Christians? Because it doesn't seem like it is. Another guy right here, Paul, said, arrest Jacob Frey as an accomplice to this attack. He's inciting more of it by failing to condemn the guilty parties. So this right here is, you know, what everybody is saying. So let's get right here to where Karoline Leavitt pretty much, calls out Jen Psaki for her comments. So by Nick Sorter, he said, Justine, Karoline Leavitt condemns Jen Psaki for mocking those who prayed for the victims of the Minneapolis Catholic school shooting. Let's check this out.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two questions for you.
Sure.
Democrats, including former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, attacked prayer and pushed gun control in the aftermath of yesterday's shooting. What's the White House's response to their comments?
Yes, I saw the comments of my predecessor, Ms. Psaki, and frankly, I think they're incredibly insensitive and disrespectful to the tens of millions of Americans of faith across this country who believe in the power of prayer, who believe that prayer works, and who believe that in a time of mourning like this, when beautiful young children were killed while praying in a church, it's utterly disrespectful to deride the power of prayer in this country, and it's disrespectful to the millions of Americans of faith. And I would encourage Ms. Psaki to pray for these families themselves who need it right now more than ever.
And see, there you go right there. So that's what I'm saying. Everybody is calling her out, and it didn't stop right there. Because like I said, even J.D. Vance called her out. So by Eric Daugherty, he said, holy crap, J.D. Vance just absolutely nuked Jen Psaki for attacking Christians for prayers after the Minneapolis trans shooter wreaked havoc. So let's check this out right here. You can see right here what Jen Psaki pretty much said. Prayer is not freaking enough. Prayers does not end school shootings. Prayers do not make parents feel safe sending their kids to school. Prayers does not bring these kids back. Enough with the thoughts and prayers. This is what Jen Psaki is saying to J.D. Vance. This is what she's saying to President Trump. She's saying this to everybody who, prayed for these kids. This is what she's saying. What is wrong with this woman? So J.D. Vance said, we pray because our hearts are broken. We pray because we know God listens. We pray because we know that God works in mysterious ways and can inspire us to further action. Why do you feel to need to attack other people for praying when kids was just taken out? We're just taken out praying. And then J.D. Vance go on to say, of all this weird left-wing culture wars in the last few years, this is by far the most bizarre. How dare you pray for innocent people in the midst of tragedy? What are you even talking about? So this is J.D. Vance was absolutely going off on Jen Psaki for what she said. And then not only that, today, this is what J.D. Vance, pretty much did, in La Crosse, Wisconsin, praying for the victims of the attack in Minnesota yesterday. So let's check out what J.D. Vance said here.
And on that note, there's going to be a time for politics, and there's going to be a time to figure out how to prevent this stuff from happening, how to make these shootings less common in our country. And I'm not going to speak about that now, but I would encourage you, the First Lady, Melania, who really has a very big heart for children, obviously as a mother herself, she put out a statement earlier today that I think is really worth taking a look at, because this happens too much in our country. And if you look, we really do have, I think, a mental health crisis in the United States of America. We take way more psychiatric medication than any other nation on earth, and I think it's time for us to start asking some very hard questions about the root causes of this violence. And I'm going to be part of that, and the First Lady and the President are going to be part of that, but that's going to be an American conversation that we're going to have together. But before we have that conversation, if you are the praying type, I would ask you to join me in prayer. I'm just going to say a prayer for the two little kids who lost their lives yesterday. And this is a prayer we say a lot in my church, and I've always found it very meaningful. It's very short. But eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon them. May the souls of all the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen. Thank you all. Now with that, I will take some questions from the reporters, but again, thank you all for having me, and thank you all for indulging that moment. I think it's important for our fellow Americans to know that we're reaching our arms around them and we love them, and you guys gave me the opportunity to do that, and so I'm grateful for it. God.
So you see how this right here make Jen Psaki look. So everybody that's around the world that's praying, for these kids, praying to the families and the ones that lost their child and stuff like that, and you get Jen Psaki pretty much making a comment like that. That is just wrong. That is just wrong. I can't see how, MSNBC, they ain't gonna, Left wing media, they ain't gonna fire no way. But of course, she make everything political. That's what she does. She make everything political. Oh, it's Donald Trump's fault. It's Republicans' fault. Why are Republicans doing this? Look what Donald Trump just tweeted about it. As if Donald Trump said anything wrong. As if J.D. Vance said anything wrong. They said our prayers go out to these families and their loved ones, especially like I said to the kids and stuff. And you talking about why is we praying to the kids? I mean, stuff like this, man. And let's dive straight into this because, like I said, Karoline Leavitt, didn't stop. She pretty much, was talking about like the juveniles and stuff like this. So let's check this out. So by Nick Toy said, breaking, the Trump administration thwarted a potential school shooting in D.C., arresting a juvenile who made posts on social media threatening violence towards the school. So let's check out what Karoline Leavitt said right here.
And it's why this administration is focused on removing public safety threats from our communities. And in fact, I can share with all of you that last night in Washington, D.C., when arrests were being made, there was an arrest of a juvenile right here in D.C. in Ward 7 for threats to kidnap and injure, receiving stolen property, possession of a large capacity feeding device, unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition. A search warrant was executed, 7 firearms were recovered, and the juvenile was arrested after an investigation was initiated based on social media posts allegedly threatening violence towards a school. So
wow.
This was a juvenile who was a risk to not just himself, but the community here in Washington, and he was removed from the community last night because of the law enforcement efforts of this administration. And I would also point to the statement of our wonderful First Lady that she released yesterday. She wrote, "The tragic mass killing in Minnesota illuminates the need for preemptive intervention in identifying school shooters. Early warning signs are often evident, with many individuals exhibiting concerning behaviors and making violent threats online prior to their actions. We encourage all Americans, as the old saying goes, if you see something, say something. If you see warning signs or threats, report it to law enforcement. This administration, federal law enforcement, will take those reports and those threats seriously. They will be treated as a law enforcement emergency, and we will act accordingly."
And that's the thing. That just go to show you that Karoline Leavitt, I mean, she's been doing a very good job. I mean, President Trump is just excited to have her on board. When I say President Trump sometimes we're not ready for, like, President Trump knows what Karoline Leavitt, is capable of. When he see the way she just talk, the way she gives the news, he's like, my God, I'm glad I picked the right person, for the job. So not only that, look what else Karoline Leavitt did. Karoline Leavitt just sent a strong message to Americans living in Democrat cities, and Democrats did not like this at all. But guess what? We liked it, and President Trump liked it. So let's check out what she said right here.
And that's why on Monday, the president took additional action to sign an executive order taking steps to ensure that cashless bail in Washington, D.C. is eliminated. For too long, D.C.'s reckless cashless bail policies have allowed dangerous criminals to be quickly released, which endangers everyone who lives in and visits our wonderful capital. No cash bail has also foolishly forced law enforcement to repeatedly arrest the same offenders over and over again, only for them to be released back into our nation's capital. This is the definition of insanity, and the president is seeking to end it. He also signed a separate executive order addressing the crime emergency in D.C. by instructing the National Park Service to hire additional United States Park Police officers to support public safety, and directing the U.S. Attorney's Office for D.C. to hire additional prosecutors to focus solely on violent and property crimes. So while liberal Democrats across the country continue to double down on their failed soft on crime approach, the American people, including local D.C. leadership, business owners, and residents, are rallying behind President Trump's crime crackdown. According to new polling, 81% of Americans say crime is a major problem in large cities across the country. And a clear majority of Americans believe the president's actions are justified and necessary to reduce crime in these cities. Indu Bhatia, who runs a liquor store a half mile from the White House here just down the street, is one of those Americans who are grateful for President Trump's public safety push. Indu recently told the New York Post that her store was robbed so many times that they had to spend exorbitant sums of money on security, jeopardizing her family's financial future. But thanks to President Trump's strong action, Indu said, quote, All of my employees, including me, we feel much safer, and even our customers feel really happy when they walk into our store. And just yesterday, Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser credited President Trump for surging federal law enforcement personnel and said neighborhoods, quote, feel and are much safer. We thank Mayor Bowser for her cooperation and her willingness to help us make D.C. safe and beautiful. This entire effort has vindicated what President Trump and law and order advocates have been saying for years, and this is our message to Americans in Democrat-run cities nationwide. Decline is a choice. You don't have to live in constant fear of being robbed, raped, or murdered. Your leaders are lying to you, and they have been failing you for decades. The President Trump approach of upholding law and order by letting our brave men and women in blue actually do their jobs to aggressively fight crime works. In just a few weeks, President Trump has done more for D.C. residents than Democrats did in 50 years. And this can be replicated in other crime-ridden cities across the nation. As President Trump has said, all of these elected officials in charge have to do is pick up the phone and ask for the president and the federal government's help. President Trump doesn't care if they are a Republican or a Democrat leader. He wants Americans to be safe and for every law-abiding American citizen across the country to be able to thrive in their city and in their community.
That right there was amazing. President Trump don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. He want to make sure your city is run safe. But, you know, you get J.B. Pritzker, you get, you know, Gavin Newsom. They want to act all big as if they can get the job done, but yet you can't get the job done because crime is up in your city and stuff like that. And y'all don't want President Trump to help. You're trying to stop him. You see what he just did to Washington, D.C. Now people are more happy. People, you know, happy, you know, that they can walk the streets and stuff now. And now y'all trying to stop President Trump from sending national troops in. That right there is, like I said, that right there is just insane to me. I really, you know, just don't get it at all. But last but not least, I do want to read y'all this because I seen this at the last minute where President Trump pretty much, you know, supported the, thanked the Republican Party and let them know how well the Republican Party is doing. So let's read this from President Trump. He said, the Republican Party is doing really well. Millions of people have joined us in our quest to make America great again. We won every aspect of the presidential election, and based on the great success we are having, are poised to win big in the midterms. We have raised far more money than the Democrats and are having a great time fixing all of the country-destroying mistakes made by the Biden administration and watching the USA heal and prosper. The results are incredible, a record pace. In that light, I am thinking of recommending a national convention to the Republican Party just prior to the midterms. It has never been done before. Stay tuned. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. So there y'all go right there. So get in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think about this. I will keep y'all up to date as more information comes out. And like I said, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.